Good evening, everybody. Uh, Tired of the hypocrisy is back. I wanted to talk this evening about being a kid and going to school, growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. I can tell you that my folks came into the Watchtower late 60s, and it was right on the cusp of me starting school. And so um, I had lived most of my life up to that point, up until about age 5.5, 6 years old, uh, with Christmases and birthdays and the things most what witnesses would call worldly kids enjoying a childhood. Um, I don't know. Once I went to school, and my folks had to put on this big front to the school, making sure that I wasn't going to be allowed to participate in anything uh, fun. I mean, right away, I mean, the first month of school went by, and next month is coming up, and we had Halloween. I wasn't allowed to do anything with Halloween anymore as a kid growing up. So I couldn't, make jack-o'-lanterns or, do anything at school relating to art. And that's what we were doing in class. Usually one day a week we did art. And so the teacher would just make me sit in the corner with my back to the class. And she really was upset that I would not be allowed to salute the flag in the morning. And you got to remember, a lot of my classmates had fathers and other relatives and friends of the family serving over in Vietnam. And so this upstart kid, not allowed to salute the flag, injured a lot of the kids. And she made sure to let them know, yeah, your fathers are over there in Vietnam, and this kid doesn't want to salute the flag. And so I caught some flack for that. Thanksgiving came the next month, and it was the same thing. I couldn't, make a turkey. I couldn't make a cornucopia. I couldn't make any of that stuff. Christmas, same thing. I couldn't, draw Santa Claus. I couldn't do none of it. So my first 3 or 4 months of school were really hell. On top of that, just my own nature. I was used to having lunch with my brother every day and playing with my brother. And so here I was thrust into this new environment of school and then sent to a cafeteria to eat my lunch. And I would, for the first few days of school, I would cry because I missed my brother. And I was sitting by myself at that long table in the cafeteria, at one of those long tables by myself, just eating my lunch and crying into it. You know, it was tough. But, I was told I had to hold my integrity for Jehovah, and otherwise I'd be destroyed at Armageddon. So I was scared to death. What this created in me and my physiology was a loathing for school. And for the first month of school, my first year in school, I threw up every time my mom dropped me off. I would throw up. Um, every year, the beginning of the school year, it was the same thing, second, third, fourth, all through elementary, all through junior high, and the first 2 years of high school. I would throw up the first few days of school. And then by the senior year, I had already rebelled uh, to the point where, nobody knew I was a witness anymore. I didn't have that issue. Some of the kids that remembered when we were in school in earlier grades noticed that I didn't really dress differently than anybody else. I was no longer the outcast. I picked up a guitar and I taught myself how to play. I took guitar classes too. I grew out my hair. I wore whatever I wanted. I wore jeans and biker boots with a ring and strap on there, and wore a buck knife on my belt. I wore a jean jacket and a Pendleton, and nobody messed with me, you know. But in the younger years, man, it was really, really difficult for me to deal with school. There are very few friends. One friend I've got to this day, despite everything that the Watchtower and my folks tried to do to split us up. Um, I met him when I was in 4th grade. He was in 3rd grade, and he lived just a few blocks away. And we used to ride the bus to school together. And he was a little bit of an oddball too because his folks were Christian, and so um, we didn't do a lot of the, bad things that, little misbehaving kids usually do. We didn't go as far as most of them because his folks kind of reined him in a little bit. Um, we'd go to a meeting, and the elders would bring back that old tired talk, bad associations, spoil useful habits. Well, I'm not trying to demean what the Bible's saying there, but what I'm saying is, uh, it throws kind of a wide blanket over a lot of people and it encompasses people that it really shouldn't, the way the Watchtower applies it. And so my folks would come back from the meeting all pumped up, and they'd say, you can't talk to him anymore. Even at school, you can't play at recess, you can't do anything, you can't go over to his house anymore, blah, 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 blah. And I told him, I said, my folks say I can't talk to you anymore, and I feel bad about it. And he goes, well, if they don't want you to talk to me, you shouldn't disobey them. And I said, yeah, but I don't think it's right. Even at that young age, I could tell that it wasn't right. I knew who this guy was, you know. And it tells me that at a young age, people can determine, to a degree, who is right to be in their life, you know. And like I said, I know this guy over 40 years now, and I never listened to my folks. I never quit talking to him, never quit hanging out with him. I had to hide a lot of times, and then after a while, they would relent, and they would say, "Yeah, he can come over or whatever." And then they give that talk again, and then for another couple of months, it was no, no, you can't talk. But guess what? I was doing it anyway. I was hanging out with him anyway. And this guy, when he found out how sick I was in the hospital, uh, beginning of the year of 2013, he called me in the hospital to see how I was doing, and he prayed for me, and I was pretty much at my wit's end. I was dealing with something very serious, and he just said, he asked, he goes, did you ever give your life to Jesus? And I said, no. I said, you know how long I was in the Watchtower cult, I said, and I've managed to extricate myself from that, but no, I don't have a real Christian background. I don't really feel like I know my Bible because the Bible that I was taught to read from is corrupt. And he prayed with me over the phone, and I gave my life to Christ. And I, I'm, I still consider myself a baby Christian because I'm still learning a lot of things every day, and I'm still trying to get my footing and walk straight and not stumble too much in that kind of a way. But when I've been reflecting on my childhood and all of the things that we were put through just because the Watchtower wanted people to stand out and make a spectacle of themselves so that we would be in the news or so we would be persecuted. I mean, there's a difference between the world persecuting somebody and somebody going out looking for persecution. And I feel that's what the Watchtower did to us kids. They made us stand out so that we would be picked on by our peers in school, our classmates. The teachers were horrible. My first decent teacher I really didn't have until 4th grade. So my first 3 years in school were pretty rough. I mean, we left the town where I was in 1st grade because the elder that that brought my folks into the watchtower beat the hell out of my mom with a shovel. And because my mom said to run and get help, I mean, I was heading towards the front door to go in the house to call the police, and a friend of the family who just happened to be a state policeman was on patrol on the highway where we lived. And we were kind of in a little rural community, and I just waved Bernie down. And he pulls over, throws on the lights, gets out, and he goes, "What's the matter?" And I said, "This guy is hitting my mom with a shovel." And I mean, Bernie drew out his, I believe it was a 41 Magnum pistol. And he ran back to where I was pointing, and I couldn't catch up to him. He was running that fast. And he drew down on this elder, and the elder dropped the shovel. And my mom was all bruised up. Well, because my mom had brought Caesar into it, they saw fit to evict us because we lived on their property. He had some houses for rent on his property, and so they saw fit to evict us. And so we ended up moving to another town, you know. Um, and this was early 1970, I guess. And when we were in the big town, circuit overseer came, did a shepherding call with the elders, and I can remember vividly my mom holding my little sister, who was like, wow, 4 years old maybe. Uh, he rubbed his hand on her head and he goes, "This little girl," he said, "will never start school before the new order comes in. That's how close we are to the end." And guess what, people? Bingo. My kid sister went to school. She finished school. She has two kids that are in their mid-20s now, and she now has four grandchildren. So go figure, you know. My little sister, who was never gonna start school before the end came, now has grandkids that are in school. So, you know, these are the things that I grew up with, and the things that really traumatized me and kind of led me to not really put a whole lot of stock in what the Watchtower says. I know a lot of people that are my contemporaries are dead set with the Watchtower, and I've tried to reach some of them online because I haven't found them in years, and a couple of them, I mean, are still there. One of them is an elder, and the other one has been an elder and is retired from work, and so he's just a pioneer now. He just spends his time as a pioneer, and I'm just flabbergasted that these guys saw the same things I did, and they're still just so in tune with everything the Watchtower says and changes. I mean, they always say, 1914 was never our major doctrine. It wasn't our big thing. I can tell you, having worked in several kingdom halls, we're in a position where I was having to have a key to the hall and the alarm code. Every single one of those kingdom halls had an alarm code 1914. And I'm guessing some of you guys out there could probably attest to that being the same case in your situation, in your congregations. Yeah, they lied about so many things, and it just, uh, I'm so glad though that I finally walked away from it, and I'm trying to encourage my wife to walk away, and unfortunately her family has quite a hold on her. But yeah, I just thought I would share a little bit of my childhood as a witness. Um, God bless all of you, and thanks for listening, and have a great week. It's Monday. It's the start of a whole new week.